All right, so this week we're going to look at Chapter 1, Introduction to Security. All right, so our objective is this. We're going to look at the challenges of securing information. We're going to define information security and explain why it's important. Identify the types of attackers that are common today. Look at some 5 basic principles of defense. First thing I want to emphasize, nothing is ever 100% secure. If it's out there, you cannot secure anything 100%. So anybody tells you that we are 100% secure, they're lying. There's always somebody that's going to get around security or some way to do it. So we have some challenges of securing information. There's no simple solution to this. There's not a cookie cutter option for securing information. Every organization is going to be different, have different needs. A professor I had, he gave us a definition of what a secure computer was, and I loved his definition. A computer is secure when it does exactly what it's supposed to do and nothing else. What one organization may want a computer to do may be something totally different than a different organization. So we can't have this one size fits all type security model. We have many different types of attacks that happen. We have physical attacks. You have to worry about the physical security of your information. We have digital attacks. We have many different ways attacks to get into an organization or into a network. And defending against attacks is often difficult. That's one of the real challenges of security is how are we going to defend the attack? What is the best choice to make to defend against this? All right, we see some examples of recent attacks. Remotely controlling a car. This is one of the big fears now with not only the cars, the electric cars or self-driving cars, anything that's tied up with the IoT, the Internet of Things. You guys have seen on the news with the Ring issue where people are being able to hack into the Ring doorbells or the webcams that are set up in kids' rooms and they're talking to kids in their rooms. IoT things, it's great for convenience, but it does create a whole other issue of security. And when we have the internet so intertwined in our lives, we've gotten so used to being able to pick up our phone and adjust, the temperature of our thermostat. We've got used to being able to use it to turn lights on or off. Alexa and the Google Home Minis and all that stuff. That's information that's flowing. Xbox cameras, the PlayStation motion stuff. All that stuff is stuff that needs to be secured. That's entry points into our information technology, into our network. What's a fear of remotely controlling a car? If you got a self-driving car, what's something that can happen if it was hacked? It can make you crash. Yeah, you could be, sitting there asleep in your driver's seat, and next thing you know, you're in a lake or into a side of a building or another car.
That sounds like a level of assassination.
It could be, more terroristic acts like that. Tampering with aircraft systems, same thing. Yahoo recently, pretty much everybody's had a Yahoo account's been hacked. Their system was pretty much compromised everything. USB flash drives with malware. Okay, so people find a flash drive and stick it into a computer. One videos we'll watch later in the semester.
Who does that?
A lot.
Just picks up a random flash drive and sticks it into a computer.
We'll watch a video of this guy. His name's Kevin Mitnick. Kevin Mitnick at one time was the world's most wanted hacker. Now he's a security expert. And that's one of the things he gives in his demonstration of live hacks. He said one of the ways to get people to push that flash drive into their computer is to put something on it like third quarter financials, payroll, something that somebody's not supposed to have access to, and they find that flash drive with that information laying on it, laying down with it written on it, they're going to pick it up and stick it in their computer. And he shows how he can take over a computer with that. But we have some other different types of attacks. Hyatt Hotels was hacked. Equifax, that's one of those things that none of us have an option whether or not we do business with Equifax. And they got them. Reason for successful attacks. There's widespread vulnerabilities, configuration issues, poorly designed software, hardware limitations, enterprise-based issues. That's what I'm saying. The biggest reason for attacks is humans. That is the biggest reason that an attack is successful, is because a human has done something to allow the attack in. It's most likely it's going to be a phishing email. They get an email saying, click here, your account's been compromised. They click it. Or maybe something of, we get them every now and then. Some kind of phishing email will try to get through. We got one time for the president of the college asking us to send them money through this link. And I think in that one they even misspelled the president's name. So that's one of the things too to look for is, there's usually bad grammar, bad spelling. Me personally, I'm not clicking on any link in an email. If my bank sends me an email that says click here to update your information, I'm not clicking there. I'm going to go to their website and then check the information out there. All right, we'll look at some difficulties in defending against attacks. Basically, the attacks are becoming more faster. They're becoming more sophisticated. One of the big reasons is that the attacks are becoming more available because of the fact that they can now go out, people can go out and buy these attacks on the internet rather than having to have the knowledge to create them themselves. So they can buy these scripts and use them. You'll see one on here though is use of personal devices. I'm bringing a phone or laptop or tablet, and I'm connected into my organization's network, and that tablet or that mobile device is not being secured by the IT department. It's a vulnerability. It is a way in. I could carry stuff in. So that's one of the reasons that attacks are becoming more difficult to defend against. User confusion, the last one on here. It says users are required to make difficult security decisions with little or no instructions. Sometimes they can have all the instructions in the world, but people are going to do stupid things. They are going to click where they're not supposed to click. They're going to do things such as like putting the flash drive into their computer that they found. They're going to click, they'll get a pop-up saying, your flash player, your Java needs updated. They're just going to click yes, rather than take the time to actually read what's there. So that people is going to be your number one security risk. And most of the time it's unintentional. All right, so when we're looking at defense, before we can even start looking at how we can defend, we got to look at some of the questions here. We got to look at exactly what security is, how security relates to information security, and then the terminology that relates to information security. Security is to be free from danger. That's our goal. The process that achieves that freedom is also our security. We do have an issue with security. The more security you have, the less convenience you have of using a system. Okay, we just saw that when we set up your MindTap account. They had pop-ups blocked on these computers. Okay, so that was a security feature, which it was a little bit of annoyance to go in and turn them off to allow that site through. Whereas the security of this is you can just click the link and go right to the website. Some other security features that the more security you have, the less convenience is So let's say two-factor authentication. All right, two-factor authentication is where you have to have two different ways to identify yourself. For example, our email address. We have to, if we log in outside of our office, we have to put our email username and password in, and then we get text a code. We have to have that code to put it in. So it's another step of security. It makes our email more secure, but it's a little bit of an inconvenience because we have to have our cell phones, or we have to have an alternate email. We have to check for a code and then go put it in to the system. There is a point where you can have too much security. You have so much security that it does become a security risk. Okay, we can look at where a point where security outweighs the convenience so much that people will look for a way to make it more convenient. And let's take a password policy. Okay, so policy is like a set of rules that govern an organization's information security use. And in those, normally we have a password policy. That's going to say how many characters your password is, you know, what the mix of it is uppercase, lowercase, letters, symbols, numbers, how often the password is changed. Can you repeat the same password? You know, so if you have an organization that sets up a password that's 30 characters long, uppercase, lowercase, letters, numbers, symbols, you can't repeat this last 10 passwords, and it changes every 3 days. Are you going to be able to remember your password? No, you're going to write your password down. It's going to be on a sticky note in your desk, or heaven forbid, a sticky note on the monitor. I've seen that.
Someone's going to see it.
And your password is going to become a security risk because somebody's going to see your note. Now, I don't know what they would be actually securing that would need that much security.
Maybe?
Probably not in that much. All right, so information security is the task to secure information that is in digital format. Now, these next three part of this, it's going to be manipulated by a microprocessor, preserved on a storage drive, and transmitted over a network. We'll come back to that because that's going to be part of our main part of our building blocks for security. All right, our information security goals: ensure that protective measures are properly implemented to ward off attacks and prevent the total collapse of the system when a successful attack occurs. I want to add to this that our information security goal is also to make sure that our users are trained on how to use this technology to help defend against an attack. All right, so we have 3 types of information protections. These are our 3 goals of information security. We want to protect the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of our information. Okay, so what we're saying now, every time we talk about this, people seem to think of integrity. When you hear the word integrity, you think, you know, somebody's got good integrity. They're honest. They're trustworthy. Okay, kind of the same thing with our information. Okay, well, what we're saying in our integrity for that is that we want to make sure that our integrity has not changed. Hey. Yes.
Hi, I'm supposed to be in this class, so I'm late.
Okay, let's go have a seat. We're going over chapter 1. We'll get back with you in a second. All right, so we try to protect our CIA, our confidentiality. Confidentiality says that only the person that should have access to the information has access to it. All right, so for example, let's say the answer key to all your assignments. Who in this room is supposed to have access to it? Me. You guys aren't supposed to have access to it. If one of you has access to it, that means that the confidentiality of that file has been violated. The integrity just means in this one case that the information is correct and unaltered. Now, does that mean that the information is correct? as far as what you put in there. Not all the time, okay? Okay, it just means that it's what you put in. Okay, if you put in, say, a math problem and you put 2 plus 2 equals 5, okay, obviously that information is not correct. But as long as that information comes back, you know, as the letter 5 or the number 5 to you, that means that the integrity has not been violated. Nothing has changed the information in. There is another saying in computing, it's garbage in, garbage out. If you put bad information in, you're going to get bad information out. Okay, but that's going to be different than the integrity. A violation of the integrity would be, let's say that you put information to a system that this class ends at 12:15. Okay, so we put that in your schedule. An attack comes through and it changes the date or changes the end time to 12:30. That would be a violation of integrity. The information has changed. Availability. Information is accessible to authorized users. Okay, when it's supposed to be. You know, this may be something as a website's attacked and the website's taken offline. Okay, then the availability of that website has been violated. Okay, this here is showing in the middle here what we're trying to protect: the confidentiality, integrity, and the availability. Now, there's 3 different states that we try to protect that information in. We want to protect it while it's in transit, while it's being stored, and while it's being processed or used. You'll see it listed both ways. What this means is while it's being in transit, while it's being transported from one location to the other. So if I'm sending information to someone, I don't want somebody sitting in the middle of that information to be able to listen in on the conversation or intercept my communications or my files. While it's being processed is while I'm using it. I don't want to change there. And while it's stored on the server, while it's stored on a hard drive, flash drive, I don't want that information to be manipulated there as either. I want it protected. I want the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of it. And we do this through 3 processes here. I know these are kind of hard to steer, but we use it through policies and procedures, people, and products. You also see that listed as technology. So what we do is we write the policies. Policies are the rules that govern an organization. It says how something works, what steps must be taken, what can't be done, what must be done, and the consequences of what happens if something does happen. You know, going back to the example of writing down your password. If we have a clean desk policy, for example, says you're not allowed to write down your password and leave it in plain view. If you do, you could be fired. Okay, so we've got the policy written there. It says this is what you can't do. And if you do this, this is what's going to happen. So if we do that and I write down my password and I leave it on my desk and my boss sees it, I'm subject to be fired. So we got a policy there. Now, we have that policy and we have people. People are our users. The users need to be trained on the policy. They need to know how the policy works, what's expected of them. They're trained on the policy, and they're trained to use products to help ensure that the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data is not violated while it's in storage, transmission, or in use. I don't like this layout of this screen. My preference is the McCumber cube. And I'm going to show this to you here. Okay. there's a, yeah.
It'll be on your like desktop.
The other one. All right, so here is the McCumber cube. So we're showing that we're doing the confidentiality, integrity, and availability while it's in transmission, storage, and processing. And in this one, they've got technology, which is the other set products. You know, how, and that may be something as simple as a virus, an antivirus scan. We train our employees to, you know, run a scan. Maybe it's training them how to use email. Don't click on links. The policies and practices, policies and procedures, this says this is what can happen, must happen, cannot happen, consequences. It's once again, it's the laws for an organization. And then the human factors. That's people we train on to use these. All right, so we've talked about this: products, people, and policies and procedures. Their definitions are products are they form the security around the data. May be as basic as door locks, complicated as network security equipment. Like I said, physical security is still an important part of information security. I can have the greatest security, digital security, the greatest router, firewall, everything in the world set up. Nobody can get into my network. But if somebody can walk in the front door and take my computer out the back door, it didn't do me any good. So simple door lock may stop that. May have a policy set up that says here's plans and policies established by an enterprise to ensure that people correctly use the product. Like I said, it may be something set up where it just says when you leave the room, lock the door. And then the people, those are who implement and properly use security products to protect data. Now we look at some more terminology here. An asset is an item that has value. A threat is a type of action that has potential to cause harm. A threat actor is a person or element with power to carry out a threat. I call them an attacker, you know, the bad guy. That's the person that wants into your system. All right, so we can look at this example here. It just gives you kind of a real world type example. This bad guy, this actor, this threat actor, he's wanting to steal the scooter, which is an asset. And so he's found a vulnerability. There's a big hole in the fence. So all he's got to do is stick his, body through that hole, grab the scooter, and climb back out with it. So the vulnerability is a flaw or weakness that allows a threat agent to bypass security. Threat vector is the means by which an attack can occur. The risk is a situation that involves exposure to some type of danger. And we look at our risk response techniques. All right, now some of these you can accept, which just means that you acknowledge there is a risk, but you're not going to take any steps to address it. That's something that does happen. Somebody knows that there's an asset and there's a risk to that asset, but they don't take any steps to fix it or to address it. Anybody want to take a guess at why they might not do that?
Laziness, procrastination.
Well, they may just put it off, but a lot of the times is that the asset's value is not worth what it would cost to actually address it, to fix it. Transfer the risk to a third party. Avoid is identifying the risk but making the decision not to engage in the activity. So like let's take those 6 computers on that back row. We'll take 6 computers back there. If I have one of them back there that I say that, you know, this one is a risk, I may not use them. I may just use the other 5. Mitigate is attempt to address risk by making the risk less serious. All right, so going back to the scooter, we'll look at here. We'll see what our asset was in that. The scooter was the asset. It had value. We'll look at example in information security, maybe an employee database. The threat was to steal the scooter or steal the data. The threat actor in this is the thief. Now we see over here that in the example in information security, the threat actor could be an attacker or a hurricane. And we do have natural disasters that can be a risk to our information security. Vulnerability is the hole in the fence for information security, software defect. Now, if we were dealing with a natural disaster, it may be the location that we live. You know, if we live in a place that gets hit with hurricanes a lot. Yeah, you know, it could be something there that, you know, it's just the geographical location. The attack vector for this one. For the scooter scenario, he just climbs to the hole. Information security, they access a web server, passwords through a flaw in the operating system. Likelihood is the probability of a scooter being stolen. And over here we got the likelihood of a virus infection. But we look at our risk here. We have a virus infection or stolen data, or we have a stolen scooter. So in the scooter scenario, what would you say would be the way that we fix that? What would be one way we could defend against that? Remember, we had a hole in the fence, and the bad guy could stick his head through there and reach through there and grab the scooter. So one of the ways we can defend against that is fix the hole in the fence, move the scooter to a new location. It's something that we can put up more barriers on the outside of the fence to stop the attacker.
What a big dog.
Yeah. Now let's look at that in information security. So if we have, you know, a guard dog, that's something we can have in information security. We can have guards, guard dogs, a fence, protect the physical security of the information. Firewalls could protect an outside attack coming in. You know, once again, you're still not 100% secure on anything. All right, so understanding the importance of information security, in this we can look at, it can be helpful in preventing data theft, identity theft, avoiding legal consequences of not securing information, maintaining productivity, and foiling cyber terrorism. So we look at preventing data theft. This is most of the time going to be your primary objective. So this could be something where they steal proprietary information. Personal data theft involves stealing credit card numbers. That can be stolen. You know, a few years ago, Coca-Cola had their secret formula stolen. It was stolen by an employee who then called Pepsi and said, hey, for I think it was $5 million, I will give you Coke's formula. First thing Pepsi did is called Coke and called the FBI or law enforcement. You know, because if they bought it, they would be liable for, you know, at risk of being found guilty of this too. Identity theft is stealing another person's personal information and usually uses it for financial gain. Like stealing somebody's social security number, create a new credit card account, file fraudulent tax returns. There's all kinds of examples for identity theft. Okay, you also have some laws that protect electronic data. The one that most everybody is familiar with is the HIPAA law, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You know, as students, you guys have a law that protects your data, the FERPA law. I think it's the Federal Education Rights Protection Act. Basically says, like, for example, if a student's parent calls me and asks me for their grades, I can't give it to them unless that student has signed a FERPA release saying that it's okay. Or I can't give the grades to anybody outside of the college.
Who would want to know their students' grades?
Hmm?
Who would want to know students' grades?
You'd be surprised.
Who? Who?
All right, so this one here is going to show us the post-attack cleanup and how it diverts resources from normal activities. Now, looking at this, we can see that this is showing the lost salaries on this. Now, you got to think, if the employees are losing this much money on this, the actual companies are probably losing a lot more. So we see the total number of employees. We're just going to look at the first and the bottom one here. So we see the first one's 100 employees who make $25 an hour. They have one employee to combat an attack. It takes them 48 hours to stop an attack. They lost $4,066 in salaries. And they lost 81 hours of productivity for the company. Now, when you go down to the last to see the number of employees of 1,000, they make $30 an hour. They got 10 employees to combat attacks. It takes them 96 hours to combat an attack. They lose $220,000 in salaries and 1,293 hours of productivity for the company. So these attacks can be very costly. Cyber terrorism is any premeditated, politically motivated attack against information, computer systems, computer programs, and data. They're designed to cause panic, provoke violence, and result in financial disaster for companies and for organizations. So this is something that may hit like banking industries, military installations, power plant, traffic lights, our air traffic control centers, water systems, infrastructure for an organization or for a country. All right, threat actor is a generic term used to describe individuals who launch attacks against other users and their computers. And most do have a goal of getting paid, doing a financial gain. There are other ones that we'll look at that have different types of goals. The financial cybercrime is often divided into two categories. It's focused on, first category is either individuals, and the second is going to be governments or enterprises, companies that it's focusing on. Now, these groups of threat actors, they can vary widely. It can be attributes, what are their goals, the fundings and resources. It could be internal or external to an organization. A lot of attacks come from within. And also the intent and motivation. It could be a disgruntled employee that's mad that somebody else got a raise, so they're going to take out a computer system. All right, earlier when I mentioned that people could buy scripts, these are script kiddies. They're individuals who want to attack computers, yet they lack the knowledge of computers and the network needed to do so. So what they do is they download automated hacking software from different websites, usually from the dark web. And a lot of these require little or no skills to use. Okay, so it's just something they just click a button, let it run, and carry out their attack. All right, so we see an example here of the skills needed for creating attacks. You said in this pie chart, they said low skills, 28% are low skills, 13% are no skills. That's a big chunk of the population there, of the attacks. It's over 40% require low or no skills because they're using the script kiddies. They're not actually developing these attacks themselves. All right, hacktivists are attackers who attack for ideological reasons. They're generally not well defined as a cyber terrorist motivations. So we see these, might be somebody breaks into a website and changes the content of the site to make a political statement. Disabling a website belonging to a bank because the bank stopped accepting payments that were deposited in the accounts belonging to the hacktivists. There's a lot of groups that are famous out there that they hack to get their information out or to stop somebody else's information from getting out. A nation state actor, this is somebody that's going to be commissioned by the governments to attack the enemy's information system.
Like a cyber privateer.
Kind of, yeah. They target foreign governments. This type of warfare goes on a lot. An advanced persistent threat is a multi-year intrusion campaign that targets highly sensitive economic, proprietary, or national security information. All right, we talked about employees being an issue and a security risk. So now we're going to look at this, that not only employees, but also contractors, business partners, third parties that have access to the information, has access to the system. Over 58% of breaches are attributed to insiders, somebody that knows the insides of a company, an organization. All right, we got examples here of insider attacks. Healthcare worker may publicize celebrities' health records. They may be getting disgruntled over upcoming job terminations. Their reason for doing it. Stock trader might conceal losses through fake transactions. Employees may be bribed or, into stealing data before moving to a new job. Those inside attacks. All right, so these here are just some other threat actors. We'll just go through the attackers. Competitors may attack their competitors' system. Either trying to get a list of their current customers or maybe some product coming out. Organized crime may do it. Brokers may do it to sell the knowledge. And of course, cyber terrorists are going to do it to target them. We also have some 5 fundamental security principles for defense. Layering, limiting, diversity, obscurity, and simplicity. All right, layering. Our security has to be created in layers. When we have one level of security, that may be something that's easy to get around. Okay, so we've increased our security by making it more robust, so we can make it harder for the attacker to get through multiple levels of security. This is also called defense in depth, and it's going to provide the most comprehensive protection. Limiting access to information reduces the threat against it. Only those who must use the data should be granted access. Okay, this is also called the principle of least privilege. So if you don't need the information, you're not getting the information. If you don't need access to stuff, you don't get it. Principle of least privilege It means that you only get the information you need or the access you need to the job and nothing more. Now we also have some methods of limited access, maybe technology-based, such as file permissions, principal of least privilege, or procedural, such as prohibiting document removal from the premises. And so you can't, and some of them maybe stuff like you can't bring in any removable drives to copy information out. All right, diversity is closely related to layering. It just means that the layers must be different. They must be diverse. And so instead of setting up 5 different firewalls, or I may set a firewall router, I may set some procedures on passwords limiting access to files.
Through security guards and remote allocators.
So, because this is like if attackers protect one layer, the same technique will be used to get to the next one. Now, the advantage of this is that if they do get through one layer of security, there's more there, and it's a different type of layer. So it does slow them down. Obscurity, you don't let your inside details get out to the outside. So you don't let them know what type of computer, what operating system you use, what brand of software. It makes it harder on them. It makes the attacker do more research. One of the principles of the attacking is that one of the first things they do is they go in and footprint. They look for the information. They want to know what type of operating system they're attacking, what type of computer they're attacking, what they're up against, what type of security you have. And so by keeping this information hidden, it does make their attacking harder. Simplicity is the nature of information security. It's complex. Complex security systems can be difficult to understand and troubleshoot, often compromised by ease of use by trusted users. And a secure system should be simple from the inside but complex from the outside. So basically, you want to make sure that your users can use the system and they're not becoming security risks because it's too difficult to use on the inside of their company. On the other hand, you don't want people on the outside to know what's happening. All right, so you do have some frameworks and reference architectures you can look at. These provide a resource of how to secure an IT environment. They've got a lot of different types of frameworks you can use. And it could be something that's regulated to that particular sector, as it shows here, that it may be something to the financial sector, maybe something to the carpet industry or something of that nature. All right, so in Chapter 1, we went over the fact that we went over a bunch of terms. We went over that we are trying to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our information while it is in storage, transit, storage, and in use. And we do this by writing the policies, training the people on how to use technologies by the policy to protect our information. That's our main goal, is protect the information with the CIA triad. That confidentiality, integrity, availability. You want to layer your defenses in. You want layered defenses. You want multiple defenses, diversity in your defenses. I'm going to stop the recording here for the online class.